Welcome back to Senior Savvy Cannabis. I'm Katherine Goldberg. Let's continue our conversation about ultra processed cannabis and what I mean by that. First of all, I'm not talking about dabs. I'm not talking about concentrates. I'm talking specifically about distillate. And before cannabis became legalized the way it is now, distillate wasn't really around. If you remember those old vape cartridges, like the oil was much darker, right? It contained a lot more of the plant matter. But once these companies realized they had to scale and everything had to be identical every time, out of the biomass, they created distillate. And I have a lot of problems with distillate, but what I wanted to talk about today is, I guess it's sort of my confusion as to why people haven't put two and two together yet. And what I mean by that is many, many times people have discovered something in nature that was great, that was helpful, cool. And then they said, well, if a little is good, more must be better. And they isolated those compounds, and then they had a super, super concentrated version of just one tiny part of whatever the great thing was. So we've seen this with like high fructose corn syrup, right? Like that's the distillate of soda. Or another example is that people in high altitudes have been chewing coca leaves for thousands of years. There's no issues with like addiction. There aren't issues with people losing interest in every other part of their life. But once you break the plant matrix apart and isolate certain parts of it, it becomes very dangerous. And I'm not saying that distillate is like the drug cocaine. It's not. It's just a theme that when we discover something good, we seem to make this mistake over and over. And another example, by the way, is with beta carotene in the 90s. They were like, hey, like this part of the carrot is great. A little is good. More must be better. And more was actually very dangerous. So the reason, and this is also the thing with the cocaine analogy, by the way, is not perfect. It just, I think, illustrates enough to pique someone's curiosity to ask, like, what is this? Because when you go into the cannabis shop, right, the dispensary, you sort of think everything is equal. And the fact of the matter is, it's not. And the fact of the matter of that is that in the same way that in the grocery store, only like 70% of what's sold or 70% of what's sold does not count as food. It's like a food-like product. I feel that we have moved in that direction in cannabis where the majority of the things that you see in the dispensary are like cannabis-like products and not cannabis. And the reason also the coca leaves analogy is not perfect by any means is because that works on the dopamine system, right? Cannabis works on the endocannabinoid system, totally different, but it still influences dopamine signaling down the line. And the idea isn't that THC is bad. No one's saying that. They're just saying that the way humans have used THC for thousands of years, where it was complete in the plant matrix, along with the other cannabinoids, the flavonoids, the waxes, the fats, just everything that's part of it, right? I didn't mean to say fats, by the way. It's like the waxes and esters and things like that. Once you start to take it apart, you run into issues. And then we have this like epidemic of like cannabis use addiction, which I think if you talk to anyone who's older, they'd say, like, what are you talking about? Like, you use weed and you live a good life and you do your work and you have a family and whatnot. But I think the issue is that with such large amounts of concentrated pure THC, the brain doesn't know how to respond to that. So these circuits get overregulated. And obviously that means tolerance, right? You're going to need more to feel the same. And the thing that I think is even more telling is that I've heard from a lot of like therapists that work with young men is that like once they're like addicted to the vapes, like it's over. Like they have no motivation for anything else. Like nothing's interesting. And that's problematic on so many levels because I think that is a distillate issue and not a cannabis issue. Um, what do you guys think? Like, I get it. I get it. Distillate is cheaper. I think the thing is, if you want to buy distillate-based products, go for it. Whatever. But you should know the consequences because, like, now we know the consequences of high fructose corn syrup, right? Like, it's the obesity epidemic. And we know the consequences of, you know, cocaine, like really, really, really bad consequences. Um, I don't know why people think the cannabis plant is any different. And that's also a reason, by the way, that I really like Rick Simpson oil products. I know they're not available in every state. Someone asked recently, how can you call RSO a full plant product? And it's because the plant matrix hasn't been broken, right? Like no chemistry has been done to isolate the plant's compounds and repackage them. It's just the whole plant, not like the stalks and stuff, but it's the whole cannabis plant that's used in making Rick Simpson oil. And yeah, I was helping one of my Savvy Relief clients, like they'll reach out and say like, I'm not, the cannabis isn't helping anymore. Like, what can I try now? And we'll look at the dispensary menu for where they live and I'll look at the COAs and we'll find something. But I had a client who wanted a vape because it's discreet and whatnot. And like 90% of the options were for distillate. And like, I don't care if it's a sativa vape if it's distillate. It's just not a good option. So your better options for vapes or for gummies or whatever are, live rosin. Live rosin is like the absolute best option, right? Live resin, it's more industrial, but like the butane and the carbon has been purged, so it's not dangerous at all. And when I also talk about ultra processed cannabis, like I'm not even talking about like machine trimming. Like, yeah, I have issues with big cannabis and machine trimming. And the worst of it is that it all looks exactly the same, which I don't like, and it also takes off the trichomes on the outside. Yeah, not like it's annoying, but that's not like a problem. Irradiation. It's not dangerous, but I'd rather not have my very limited amount of terpenes nuked with gamma waves if it could be avoided, because you only irradiate weed that has problems, like moldy weed. So, like, maybe we can focus on growing cleaner products so we don't have to use radiation to clean our weed. But again, like, I understand, like, in New York City for the recreational program, I was told that all the cannabis is irradiated. And people are like, it's dry, it doesn't taste good. It's like, yeah. Yeah. Um, but at this point, like, you go into a dispensary and let's say 5% of the products are solid. They're craft products, they're RSO, they're hash. Um, Amazing. But with all these multi-state cannabis operators that are just trying to scale for the sake of scaling and producing so much more product that they can't sell, that they have to do something with it, it's just not a good situation. And like it wasn't always like this. I was in the medical program in California from 2012 until like recently, but it was good from 2012 until 2017. And then after 2017, everything changed. So I just don't even go to the dispensaries anymore. Like I'm tired of spending money and being disappointed. I just don't want to do that, which is why I started this whole growth series so we can all learn how to take this into our own hands. And that's not even, we're not even touching on the pesticides being used because I don't know enough about that to comment on it. It's just, I see distillate as being a huge problem that people don't seem to realize. And they just say, like, oh, all cannabis is safe. There are no problems with it at all. And the plant is great, but we have to respect the form it comes in and the way that it's always worked with our brain and body. And we can't be surprised when people who hit their vapes 90 times a day because it's just stuck in their hand all day are complaining about nausea, headaches, irritability, just being in a bad mood. Like, it sucks, but that's where we are. So I'm curious if you found this in your home state or wherever you live right now. Um, yeah, that's the current state of cannabis, and I regret voting for it to become recreational. I think like we did a big disservice and we didn't know. Sorry about that. But Florida's only medical, and I'm not jumping up and down about that either, so who knows? Um, okay, cool. Well, I think this topic is really interesting. I think just the more that we get back to like what our grandparents ate and enjoyed, obviously my grandparents did not use cannabis, but the better off we'll be because we know the consequences of ultra processed sugar, vitamins. Like it never ends well. So I don't know why we think this is going to end well either. Okay, thanks for listening. I'll be back next week.